What's going on, friends? Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about max level crafting in New World. Now, since the release of the game, Amazon have steadily kind of improved crafting and given you more options. Since the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion, we actually have the ability to make guaranteed max level gear score items. So that is 700 gear score items, and you can choose 2 or even 3 perks, so you can have the exact perfect item that you want. So if I want to make a helmet here with health, enchanted board, and refreshing, we can get exactly just that. So I'm going to be talking about the stages that you need to go, because this isn't something you can do straight away. It's not even something you can do once you get to 250 in the crafting level. You have to get to 250, and then there's quite a few steps after that as well. So we're going to break down those steps, talk about how you can do them, and that's generally what today's video is going to be about. As always, you'll be able to scrub along with the the timestamps down below will mean you can scrub along for the sections in the video that you're interested in. As always, friends, if you guys enjoy these sort of videos, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment down below if you've got any of the tips for your fellow crafters out there, and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of educational New World content. And with that being said, let's kick off with this crafting guide. So it probably goes without saying, one of the first things you're going to need to do to craft max level items, and by that I mean we're talking about this top row here. We're gonna focus on armoring for this video, but I will, if there's something different, I'll talk about it with the other crafts as well. You will need to get to 250 in your craft of choice. So if you want to make max level high gear score armor, or max gear score armor, if you want to do it with blunderbusses, for example, or spears, if you want to make jewelry, then you're going to need to get to 250. Now, in order to get to 250, you will need to buy the Rise of the Angry Earth expansion. If you don't have the expansion, but just the base version of the game, you're going to be stuck at 200. You might not even be at 200, you might be starting at level 1 or level 12 or something like that, and asking, Baggins, well, how exactly do I do that? What are the best methods when it comes to leveling up crafting? Well, I have 3 pieces of advice that I would say you should follow, 3 steps that you can go through when it comes to leveling up crafting. The first one is to take a look for scraps. Now, you might be getting these as you level up and as you go through your adventures in New World. They look like this. So they're called infused armor scraps. There's also infused jewelry scraps, infused weapon scraps, and then there's a lower tier version as well, which is valuable armor scraps, and this extends across all the different crafting categories. What you can do with these in your inventory or your storage shed is go to the relevant crafting station where you want to level up that particular type of craft. In this case, it's armoring, and I'm going to type in the word research. This will give me a couple of different options with my scraps here. So I have my valuable armor scraps. I can make 3 of these for a decent chunk of armoring XP down here, and then with the infused scraps, we can actually get a pretty large amount of armoring XP here as well. This was a process that took me from 200 to 250 on the day of the expansion, because I had a lot of these scraps saved up because I've been playing the game for a very long time. I understand that not everybody is going to have tons and tons of scraps sitting around their inventory, but if you do have a few, it's definitely worth knowing that that is probably one of the best uses for them, even after you've maxed out your crafting, because you can get aptitude. You can also take some other crafting patterns that you might have sort of lying around and turn these into some armoring XP. It's not as much, but that is also something you can do as well. So basically just typing in the word research into the crafting station and seeing what you can make there with any scraps and spare materials you might have in your inventory. That's going to help you getting to that 250. The next thing you want to do when it comes to leveling up your crafting is taking advantage of the first time crafting bonus. So you can also this is denoted by the item kind of being in bold. So if it's glowing white, then you haven't crafted it before. Now, as I mentioned with my armoring, I pretty much did all of this just through the scrap system, so I didn't really have to go through and make a lot of things. But there is something to be said about the first time crafting bonus. I think it gets you triple the amount of XP. So let's go down and find something that I can actually make here. I don't think I have any materials on me, so I think there's a whole lot I can make right now. Here we go. So I finally found some things that I have materials for. So we have a linen shirt here, and this is going to give me 1,520 XP, but the base XP is only 490, so you can see that. So the first time that I make this 1,520, we'll go ahead and do that. And then we're just going to hit salvage on it because we don't actually need it. And we take a look at it again. This time I'm only getting 540. So yeah, it's like a 3 times XP modifier. Now, I wouldn't want to keep making these over and over again because I could just drop down a couple of tiers and here's something else that I can get triple the XP for. So just generally going through items within what you have available to craft and making one of each, I think is probably one of the best ways to get that XP rolling and to get yourself towards that 250 milestone. Now, if you run out of things to use for your first time crafting bonus and you have to make something repeatedly, one thing that I always recommend is taking a look at the replicas. So this is under the Lazarus Instrumentality replicas, also the Garden of Genesis replicas. I think making a lot of these, just using the cheapest materials that you can for each one, because these do give a tremendous amount of crafting XP. And these replicas exist for most categories. I think you can have them with weaponsmithing, you can have them with armoring. I think they're there for engineering as well. Jewel crafting isn't going to be there, but we'll talk about that in a second. But yes, you will need spectral dust, or you will need sticky vines. You can go through and take a look. Generally, you can buy these off the trading post. If they seem expensive, don't go for it. But if you would be surprised that sometimes you can get quite a lot of these expedition materials for quite cheap, and they are very, very useful for the amount of XP that they give you, especially with that first time crafting bonus in mind. Now, the third step that I would recommend following when it comes to maxing out your crafting is to check out this website. This is gaming.tools/new world, but I'll put a link to it in the description down below. You can choose which section you're interested in. So I want to level up my crafting, armoring rather. We're going to choose my current level of 100, but before we do that, actually, we're going to import our server prices from Barry. That's the server that I'm on. I'm level 150. I want to get to level 250. We ask it to update, and then what it's going to do is going to calculate based on the price of materials on your server what you can make. So it's recommending that I make 944 pairs of infused silk leggings or 944 pairs of infused silk pants. So yeah, that's the options there. If we go to weaponsmithing or something else, or if we go to a different server, it might offer some different alternatives, but generally it gives you a pretty good idea of how many materials you're gonna need to stock up. And sometimes it can offer like a multitude of different paths as well, especially if we choose, you know, a high level over here, or give us more choices and stuff. I think it's a pretty good website. I wouldn't follow it exactly to the T, but it is something that is good to be aware of when it comes to leveling up your crafting. One final thing that I want to say when it comes to leveling up your crafting is it is probably going to be expensive. There is no real way to get around it. You're either going to spend a lot of time gathering the materials, or you're going to spend a lot of gold gathering the materials, but it kind of is what it is. And in most cases, especially if you're making like 900 pairs of infused silk gloves, you're just going to be salvaging them afterwards. You can't actually sell them. There isn't really a market for infused silk gloves these days. However, that's not always the case. You can take a look at something like gemstone dust, for example. This can be a handy one to level up your jewel crafting with. If you buy a bunch of pristine gems off the trading post, especially if there's some of the cheaper ones like sapphire, for example, usually won't go for too much. You can smash this up and then sell the gemstone and sort of recoup most of the gold that you invested into it. This same thing can potentially be done with Arcana as well. You can make infused regeneration potions, get yourself quite a lot of Arcana XP, and then sell the potions to recoup the gold on the materials that you've invested your time or gold into. So there are some cases, especially with Arcana and jewel crafting, and maybe even weaponsmithing with honing stones, where you can buy materials, make an item, and then actually sell it. But just want you guys to be aware that most of the time it is a means to an end. You are going to be investing time and gold into the craft just to get it to 250, and you know, it is going to feel a little bit miserable along the way, because you're going to be spending a lot of time and gold and not really being able to make it back. So that covers getting the craft to the max level of 250. Now, unfortunately, once you do max out the craft, it isn't just a case of being able to go into your relevant crafting station and make a max level item. If we take a look at a mithril great axe here, using this lower tier recipe here, which only uses 2 prismatic leather, 3 prismatic planks, and 15 prismatic ingots, it's 635. And if we go down to the very expensive option here, which is where we get to choose all 3 perks, and we get to choose the attribute and stuff, even then we're only at 660. Now, the reason behind this is because there are a multitude of buffs that you have to acquire which increase the crafting gear score. So specific to weaponsmithing, and the first thing that we can start with is a trade skill food. So we have this savory vegetable medley here, and it says it increases your gear score when crafting weaponsmithing items by 15. So if I go ahead and pop one of those, get it on the hotbar, and then we go back into the forge and type in mithril great axe again, we can see that first one, when we lock in the highest tier materials, comes out at 650. When we go down to that very expensive version of the great axe, we are now at 675. Obviously, we're still not all the way there to 700, and that is because there is like I say, several other steps that we have to jump through as well. So the first one we already covered, that is the trade skill food. You can buy this off the trading post. You're looking for savory vegetable medley if you want weaponsmithing. For jewel crafting, it is glazed melon bread. For armoring, it is spicy cabbage soup. For arcana, you're looking at the sweet wild berry infusion. And for engineering, it is the herb crusted vegetables. Now again, this is all going to be covered in the written guide, and as always, pause the video, wind it back if you need to sort of write this down. It does take a little bit of time getting used to all these sort of different steps that you need to jump through. The next stage of improving your gear score for crafted items comes in the form of equipping things to your character. So right now I have the Armorer set on. So we have the Armorer hat, Armorer shirt, Armorer gloves, Armorer pants, and Armorer shoes. And this exists for every other type of craft in the game as well. So if I type in the word expertise, which is going to show us everything that gives us a crafting expertise buff, you can see that we have the engineer hat, shirt, gloves, legs, boots. We have the same for the weaponsmith. For arcanists, it's called concoctors. And then for jewel crafting, it's called mixers. Now, to make things a little bit more confusing, as if it wasn't already confusing enough, there are, in some cases, 2 different sets of each type as well. So we have New World Database open here already. There is the Armorer shirt, and then there is also the Armorer shirt as well. Now, they both give exactly the same buff. In the past, there was like one was cheaper or easier to get than the other. From what I can see these days, the Armorer shirt just seems to be something that you can craft if you can get the recipe for it, which would come from Armoring Aptitude. The other one that's going to be more attainable actually drops from an enemy. So this Armorer shirt here drops from the Siren's Fist. And then if we click on the Siren's Fist, we can see whereabouts it is on the map and then go take it down and hopefully get the drop that we're looking for. Now, you can buy these on the trading post as well. But yeah, in general, you are looking for, once again, the engineer hat all the way through to the engineer shoes. You're looking for the weaponsmith hat all the way through to the weaponsmith shoes. For Arcana, I think there's 2 different names of items, but I have the concoctor's hat, again, all the way through to the shoes. And then for jewel crafting, we have the mixer set, and armoring, as we already covered, is the armorer set. Each one of these is going to increase your gear score crafting potential by 2 for a total of 10 extra gear score points. And the food is 15, so already just between these two, we're getting 35 extra to our gear score. Another quick and easy 5 extra points of gear score you get comes from your earrings. So there are earrings that you can get with these mastery perks on them. So we have armor mastery, engineer mastery, weaponsmith mastery. You guys get the idea. You can buy these off the trading post. You can craft them at the jewel crafter. It doesn't really matter what the gear score of the item is. It just has to have the perk on it. So yeah, don't be looking and thinking you need to get a 700 gear score version of this. Just whatever you can find, the cheapest thing you can make. Again, you can make them at the outfitting station under the jewel crafting section, or you can probably buy a cheap one off of the trading post, but you will need these 5 extra points of gear score as well. Now, the next step towards crafting 700 gear score items and getting all the buffs ready involves buying a house. Now, this is sadly one of the most expensive steps. It can be done somewhat cheaply, as it doesn't have to be an expensive house. Right now in New World, you have a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 house. This one that we're looking at right now is 10,000 gold. This is a tier 2 house. 15,000 gold is tier 3. 20,000 gold is tier 4. And the lowest tier, tier 1, is only 5,000 gold. Now, the first house that you buy in New World will have a 5,000 gold discount, which means you can get one tier 1 house for free, but you're still going to need to find a way to get another 10,000 gold to buy your other 2 tier 1 houses in other settlements. Now, when it comes to making gold for those houses, I suggest checking out the gold guide. Links to that in the description down below as well. When it comes to houses, we will talk about this a little bit later on, so make sure you check out the next bit after this particular section in the guide, as I do believe there are good areas that you should buy a house in as well. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about why we need these houses. The first step is to put down trophies. So you will need 3 houses in total, because you need 3 sets of major trophies. So we have the major armoring trophy on the wall right now. We have the major weaponsmithing trophy. We have the major arcana trophy. And then if I go in with my remaining trophies over here, we should also have the major engineering. Now, jewel crafting, at least in this case, is rolled into armoring for whatever reason. So you don't need to worry about getting a jewel crafting trophy. Your armoring trophy covers both jewel crafting and armoring. And each one of these gives you +5 to the respective craft. So this is +5 to items that we make through Arcana. Armoring is +5 through armoring. If you open up your character's bio over here, you can see what trophies you currently have down. So I can see that in Windsward, I have a major armoring trophy. In Everfall, I have another one. And in Brimstone, I have another one. And you might be saying, well, Baggins, why don't I just put 3 down inside my Brimstone house? You can't. Sadly, you can only have 1 trophy type down per house, so you can only have 1 armoring trophy in your Brimstone house. If you tried to put down another one, it'll say that you can't do that. So Yeah, this is, like I say, it's an expensive step. These trophies you can make at the workshop or you can buy from the trading post. If you do want to make them at the workshop, it's like a Russian doll sort of thing, where if you want to make the major trophy, you need the basic trophy. And if you want to make the basic trophy, you need the minor trophy. So yeah, starting off with minor trophies, if we type that out, M-I-N-O-R, and then we make the minor Arcana trophy. And then we go to basic. Let's see if we have the option to make any here. We don't, because I don't have any minor trophies in my inventory. And there's also an extra material that you need as well. So this can sort of be made easier, this whole process, just by using the tools in the game. So if we go to the trading post here and we type in major armoring crafting trophy, it tells you what you need down here below. So these are all the components that kind of go into it. So you can see we need precision armoring tools, which is a rare drop. You'll have to have these in your inventory. And then if we go back again and take a look at that, we will also need a basic armoring trophy. And the basic armoring trophy requires the minor one, and you also need this special material here as well, Armorer's Journal. Like I said, it is pretty complicated. There are a lot of steps that go into this, but the major trophies, unfortunately, aren't really negotiable. You will need to get these. And if you really want to go the whole hog, you can make them into ultimate trophies. But I think that's going to be a separate video. So again, I would recommend taking a look, breaking it down, taking a look at the materials on the trading post. Check out the written guide as well. We have all of the materials in there. But you are going to need 3 different houses, and then you go into your house, you can open up the crafting menu and put the trophies on the wall. In this case, for the demonstration, we're talking about armoring trophies, so you need to have a major armoring trophy down in each one of your 3 houses. Now, the final step when it comes to increasing your max gear score, thankfully, is a town buff. Now, this one is a little bit annoying in my opinion, because you don't really have any control over it whatsoever. So I have houses in Brimstone Sands, Everfall, and Windsward. Now, the reason behind that we'll talk about in just a second, as we promised, but this, my house in Brimstone Sands is, this company that owns Brimstone Sands is Legacy 2.0. Now, the consuls and the governor of Legacy 2.0 can go to this special sort of interactable station here, and there's one of these in every town. It's called the Territory Planning Board, and from here they can set up lifestyle improvements. Now, down here, this is what we're talking about. This is why it's important for crafting. So Weaponsmith's Temperament is currently active for everybody who owns a house in this territory. Now, this isn't just for Brimstone Sands. This is just like a buff that I get. So even if I'm not in Brimstone Sands, I still have the Weaponsmith's Temperament buff. You don't get to see it on your hotbar. It isn't shown anywhere else, other than if we press, we go K and we go Bio, we can see Town Project bonuses. I have Weaponsmith's Temperament from my Brimstone house. In Windsward, we are currently receiving Armorer's Inspiration and Engineer's Patience. And then finally in Everfall, we have Armorer's Inspiration and Weaponsmith's Temperament. Now, these buffs don't stack, but each one does give you plus 5 gear score. So it's basically like having another major trophy on the wall. So if I wanted to make armor, I would need the Armorer's Inspiration. If I wanted to make a weapon, I would need the Weaponsmith's Temperament. If I wanted to do Arcana, sadly, I don't think I can do it right now because we don't have the Arcana buff from anywhere. So we would just have to hope, maybe ask in global chat or just cross our fingers that one of the companies who owns either Windsward, Everfall, or Brimstone, because that's where I have my houses, goes ahead and sets the Arcanist Wisdom buff active. It doesn't cost too much in terms of how much these companies make, but without this buff, you are going to be shy 5 gear score points, with the exception of something we're going to talk about right at the end of the video. So once again, just in case that was a little bit too confusing, you have to buy a house in an area, and then once you have that house, you receive buffs, lifestyle improvements from having the house in that said area. So my house in Brimstone Sands is providing me with the Weaponsmith's Temperament buff. And then the house that I own, if I went to the same Territory Planning Board, we could see it there, but I could also just open it up from here. My house in Windsward, once again, is providing me with Armorer's Inspiration, so we got plus 5 to Armoring, and then Engineer's Patience, so plus 5 to Engineering. And I don't have to be in Windsward to take advantage of these. These are global buffs, but they are another piece of the puzzle when it comes to getting that 700 gear score crafting potential. Right, friends, so assuming that you've managed to complete all of the steps so far, you've got the armor, you've got the earring, you've got the food buff, and let's just go ahead and pop mine over here. We're gonna armoring, as we've talked about, so we've popped the spicy cabbage soup for 15 gear score. We've got the earring on for another 5 gear score. We've got all of our pieces of armor for 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 extra gear score. We also have the armor's inspiration buff, as we've talked about, and we have our 3 major armoring trophies down in our 3 different houses. I go to the crafting station and I want to make myself some mithril plate armor, and I type in mithril, and then we go down to the plate armor section, and you might have the same problem here where you lock in the highest tier materials and you're like, oh, Baggins, I'm only 675. What's going on? I'm missing 25 gear score points. What is the problem here? Well, it turns out there is a hidden recipe in here which you won't see unless you have a certain item in your inventory, and that certain item is called the Golden Scarab. So if I just go ahead and grab some of these from my Brimstone Sand storage shed where I've got mine, and you can buy these off the trading post, you can get them in chest runs. Now that I have them here in my inventory, or they could also be in your storage shed as well, when you go to the crafting station, you're going to see that you have a bunch more options. So if we type in mithril again, you'll see that you get these options here for timeless shards. So timeless shards strength, timeless shards dexterity, timeless shards intelligence, timeless shards focus, timeless shards constitution. This is basically whatever attribute you want to lock in. So if you want to make a strength item, then you will choose strength. So if I want to make myself a strength great axe, that's good. But as we talked, we want to make some heavy armor. So I want to make a mithril plate helmet. So if I go to timeless shards constitution, and then we drop down these menus, we've got plate armor here, golden scarab. So if I choose mithril helmet and then we choose the highest tier materials, we should hopefully see 700 gear score as an option there. So you will also need to have the golden scarab, and then you're also going to need to have these timeless plate helmet or whatever the other item is that you're trying to make as well. But in order to actually see the recipe pop up, you will need to have golden scarabs in your inventory. Just 1 will do, although pretty much all the crafts require 3, but that is one final piece of the puzzle you also need to know about as well. One other thing that I want to briefly talk on is golden scarabs versus prismatic scarabs. I would say in most cases you should just craft with a golden scarab. This is going to allow you to lock in 2 perks, so we can choose 2 perks of our choice here. We will need to choose the highest tier materials. Here we go. And this is going to make a 2 perk 700 gear score item with the stat that you choose. With the Prismatic Scarab, you can choose 3 perks, as we talked about at the beginning of the video. We can choose 3 perks here, but the amount of materials it requires is just absolutely insane. 120 prismatic ingots, 120 leather, and 80 prismatic cloth, compared to 8, 6, and 4. It is significantly cheaper. So unless you're 100% sure that you need all 3 of those perks, and that is the perfect item, and there's no other way that you can get it in the game, or it seems like it's a very, very low drop chance, I would say just stick to the Golden Scarab. Some quick final things that I want to talk about for this video. Obviously, if you're looking for any particular materials, check out New World Database. They're not a sponsor, but it is just a truly great website. So you can just type in pretty much everything you want in here. Timeless plate shards. To get those timeless shards, just running mutated expeditions is a great way to do it, or you can buy them off the trading post. They're very cheap as well. When you are going to craft a 700 gear score item, make sure you lock in the maximum Azoth you can. So in this case, it's 495. This is such a painful mistake that I've seen people and myself make in the past, where you forget to do the Azoth, and then you get an item without a gem slot. It's sad times, so don't do that. That would be such a shame to stumble at the last block. Make sure you lock in the max Azoth. Always just worth double checking this. Always check that you're crafting with the right stat as well. So check the attributes up here. Make sure you're not accidentally making a focus heavy helmet or something like that. And then the final thing that I also want to talk about is one more point of gear score, because somebody's definitely going to mention it in the comments if I don't, and that is Fort Morningdale. So Fort Morningdale also gives you a global crafting bonus of +5. Now this can be used to effectively circumvent one piece of the puzzle. So if you're short by 1 trophy, if you don't have the earring, if you're missing a piece of gear, or 2 in this case, you can get 5 extra gear score by having Fort Morningdale. Now, what I mean by having it is is that you will have to flag up for PvP. So if you press U on your keyboard and then you go and stand on the fort, so you'd have to travel to Greyvale capital and move down here, stand inside the fort. You're going to be there for about 10 minutes if you're on your own. It will flip into the color of your faction, and then your faction will have it for 1 hour. It will be locked to your faction, and everybody, whether you're Syndicate, all Syndicates on the server, all Covenant, or all Marauders, will get +5 to the crafting bonus. So you're effectively giving everybody a free trophy. Now this has a cool interaction with the game where if you're going to make something with a prismatic scarab, if you're going to make something ludicrously expensive, so if we go back to that mithril helmet that we were talking about earlier, you need 120 prismatic ingots, 120 prismatic leather, and 80 prismatic cloth. But because the fort is giving you 5 extra gear score, you're effectively crafting at 705 gear score, except you can't do that. You're not allowed to craft items above 705. But interestingly, if you drop one of these materials down, other than the ingots, the top material I think always has to stay locked to the highest tier material, but if we drop the prismatic leather down to runic leather, we lose 5 points of gear score. But because it's an invisible 705, it doesn't actually go. It shifts from 700 to 700 because you've reduced it by 5 gear score, but you were technically at 705. And the difference in price between 120 prismatic leather and 120 runic leather is substantial. So always worth bearing in mind if you're missing a trophy, or if you want to save yourself a little bit of gold and drop one of the materials down to a lower tier, make sure that you go and grab Fort Morningdale or Keep Morningdale. All right, friends, this concludes my quick guide to 700 gear score crafting in New World. Unfortunately, it is quite complicated. There are a lot of steps you need to go through. I really think Amazon could just consolidate them all into the armor or the trophies. I don't see why we need the armor and the trophies and the earring and the town buff and the food. It's too many steps. But anyway, once you get it, you kind of get it. I do want to reiterate, there is going to be a written guide of this video available on Discord as well, along with several other guides. We're continuing to add more and more. So we have builds in here. If you're interested in a fire staff build, for example, we've only got one currently up. If you're interested in life staff build, here's all our life staff builds. And then we've also been adding guides to other aspects of the game as well. So how to make gold in New World. We've talked about this, and this talks about the golden scarabs. So if you're interested in that section where you covered it in this video, check out the builds guide, the builds and guide section on Discord. Right, I'm just rambling at this point, so I'm going to wrap the video up. Once again, friends, if you enjoyed this one, as always, please consider leaving the old like. It would help out a New World creator in these dark days of no content. If you want more educational New World content, just generally updates on the game, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys all in the next video.